Welcome back to Fast Family. Welcome to, guys, F9, the Fast Saga. This is the last one we're doing until, obviously, Fast 10 comes out, which probably won't be for a couple years. And then I think Fast 11 should be the last one. For all intents and purposes, guys, this is our last Fast and Furious review that we're going to be doing for a couple of years, at least. So, welcome to Project Potter, guys. My name is Kyle, your host. If you haven't seen the show before, this is our Fast and Furious review, guys. And I just want to say one thing, because this is our last one, guys. You guys can have any beer, as long as it's a Corona. Salute me, familia. Bet you thought I was going to chug that for a second, but no, that's not how we do it here on Project Potter. If you guys haven't seen before, most of the review is going to be called Recap a quarter minute at a time. We're doing a strongest character, which is the 10-second car. We're doing a weakest character, which is They Never Had Me. Score out of 10, and in the rankings, which will be our final rankings, of course, you know, in those 10 seconds or in this hour and a half review. We're free. Welcome to the Fast and the NASCAR. We see Mr. Toretto, I should say, his father, do a little shake and bake, and there's a guy behind him that looks a lot like John C. Reilly in Talladega Nights. Toretto does a little shake and bake, and Magic Man hits the wall. We find out that Dom's brother, Jacob, were both working on the pit crew for his dad at the time of his death. So Dom, let me tell you, is looking swole for this one, dude. He's got some big arms in this one. Betty must have been his spotter because she's looking ripped too. Dom is kind of playing with little Brian, his son. He's like, remember what we practiced? Apparently this means hide in the fucking barn. Rome pulls up and he's like, yo. He's like, we come in peace. He's like, maybe you didn't recognize me because I've been tanning all week, bruh. Ramsey and Tej, I should say. They show up there. They found a distress signal and they found Cipher. And I'm like, oh, if you guys remember in the Fate of the Furious review, Cipher escapes, and I was like, okay, they're obviously going to bring her back for another movie. Well, I didn't think they would bring her back for the next movie. Like, Fast and Furious 8, or Fate of the Furious, I should say. She escapes, and then in Fast 9, they bring her back. We get more into that in just a bit, but I need a drink because it's ridiculous. And he says, we're not Brian and Mia. She's like, that's not who we are, dude. She's like, ride or die, bitch. Dom's like, you know what? You're right. And he's like, fuck this kid. He just shows up like last minute to the runway, and they don't show like a babysitter for little Brian, and we're like, this fucking kid is just like sitting in that barn. Betty's like getting on the plane, and I think Dom's supposed to watch the kid, but then Dom's like, fuck it, I'm getting in my Charger and going to the runway. But he forgot to take little Brian with him, so little Brian's just in the barn eating like dirt and shit. We go to Monte Quinto, which is our first big like location here. We don't get a title card in this whole movie. There's at no point in this movie does it say F9 or Fast and Furious 9 or the Fast Saga. There's no title card in this film. I didn't even know you could make a movie without a title card, but guess who's watching from the distance, guys? It's John Cena, of course, who we will find out plays Jacob. Toretto, who is Dom's brother, which they introduced in the 9th movie, and it's funny because there's some scenes later on where they're like, you have a brother? And he's like, yeah, we'll explain how it all works. So guess who pulls up, guys, in a blue Charger? It's John Cena, and he like has his door open or something, and he like scoops it up, and then he just like stares at Dom, and get ready for a whole bunch of that in this movie. He drives off, and then a fucking jet comes in, and then just picks him up like a fucking bald eagle picking up fish from a river, dude. Just comes in and sweeps him up, and he just goes, and Jacob's just gone. And they're like, oh shit, like we've never done that shit. But he's like, nah, bro, fuck this. She's like, I've been through a whole bunch of stuff. I could deal with the car exploding, the truck exploding towards us and going over us. That was fine. Putting cars out of planes, that was fine. But she's like, nah, dude, I'm not gonna fucking drive just off of a cliff. And so Dom goes, it's NOS time, baby. I mean, he doesn't say that, but that's what I said. Drives intentionally into the stake, gets caught in his tire, and then uses it like a slingshot or like a rope around, and then like flings them. I don't even know how to describe it, but if you guys have seen the movie, you know what I'm talking about. Slingshots them around like Tarzan, dude. They flip a few times and their car is messed up, but they just like never suffer any body damages. And he's like, oh, that was new. So the crew is back together at this point in the movie, guys. But I'm wondering why I'm like not having more fun. And I'm like, well, we're missing Han, obviously. He's dead. We're missing Giselle. She's dead. Brian, because Paul Walker tragically died in real life, so he's off screen. We're missing Hobbs, and then we don't have Shaw. There is a post-credit scene with Shaw, spoilers, but he's not in the whole movie. Still good, and we still have big characters, but it's just not the same as it once was. Roman Pierce, oftentimes in this movie, he's like speaking through the audience where he's like, whoa. He's like, Jacob is your brother. He's like, so he's a dude. He drives like a bat out of hell. He coordinated an aerial jump so he could land at the bottom of an aircraft to pick him up. He's like, who does that? They're like, a Toretto does that. And he's like, damn, you got me there. Turns out, guys, that there is a white brother that Dom has named Jacob that was just kind of sitting there that has never been mentioned before until now, and he's been there the whole time, and he's quiet, and it's like, okay, they just like kind of retcon him in there. We cut to Charlize Theron in a box, guys, because that makes sense. She also has the world's worst bowl cut, dude, and I'm like, why? Meanwhile, Brian's kid is just like looking for the fucking Cheerios at home, like just wonder if he's going to be eating like worms for dinner, or like wondering if the fucking babysitter's going to show up or what's going on. That kid is just fending for himself. Then we get the first legitimate surprise in this movie where Mia shows up, and I was like, oh, dude, like Jordana Brewster shows up as Mia. That's awesome. I was like, wow, let's go. That's like an awesome, genuine surprise. And Tej is like, you're going to want to sit down for this. And we get a picture of Han, dude. And I was like, oh, shit. Bro, is it related to Han's death, or is it related to Han's resurrection? I will say that Vinny Bennett does a really good job of impersonating young Dom, where he's like cool and collected, and it's not quite like a one-to-one, but it's really good showing like a young version of Dom in this one. You know, Dom, I hope you find your peace. And I just thought of that song. You know the one. I hope you find your peace. Dom doesn't, dude, because he says, a chance at peace died that day. We cut to Tokyo, baby. Great, great line where Mia says, you know, Dom has always been my brother, but you have always been my sister. It's all about family, baby. Salute me fucking familia, you know? Lucas Black back as Sean Boswell. This actually got me hyped as fuck. Lucas Black is like, y'all seen 10-second cars? He's like, say hello to the 2-second car. And then he fucking takes off the tarp, dude, and they made a goddamn DeLorean. Nothing is more powerful than the love of family, but if you turn that love into anger and resentment, nothing is more dangerous. I'm like, wow, what a line, dude. Did you guess that Cardi B was in this movie? Because she is. Cardi B, coming to rescue Dom in this movie. Guess who's back, 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 back again, again, again. Han is back, 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 tell a friend. Really kind of a weird reveal for Han, honestly, because he has short hair in this movie. I hate it so much. He's not using roads. And then Dom turns, he's like, he's using zip lines. Dom's like, I got eyes on Jacob, despite seeing him one time zip line for like not even 10 seconds and gets back in his car. I'm like freaking Luke Skywalker. Hey, that's enough. You already had a Star Wars reference. Don't go any farther. Don't disrespect the GOAT Jedi like that, dude. You're just a fucking womp rat. That's all you are. She goes, no, you're not. And he goes, you're right. I'm more of a Han Solo. And I'm like, no, dude. And then Cipher says, nah, you're Yoda. Huh? Han walks in and he's fucking snacking. And he's like, nice clubhouse. I'm like, oh, it's good to be back, Han. Everyone looks at him in disbelief. We get some nice hugs. Rome says, need to explain what happened, because last I knew, you were blown up in a car. We get some expedition where Han meets Mr. Nobody, where that's where he went after Giselle died and worked with Mr. Nobody. He tells him he could trust him because he saw his work with Giselle, which is cool. We get the Han scene in Tokyo where his car was upended and he was clearly in the car. And then it turns out that Mr. Nobody faked this explosion because they had like another guy in the car or something. So I'm like, did you just kill an innocent guy to get Han off the hook or whatever? Oh, it looks pretty convincing. He's like, pretty neat magic trick, huh? I'm like, there's a real dude in there. You just killed someone that looked like Han, like convincingly. So Mr. Nobody says like Han's death was the easiest way to keep him alive. Dom says the only good thing about Dad dying is that he didn't have to see what you've become. You never deserved the Toretto name. Then we find out that Jacob gets in Dom's face and he's like, actually, dude, he's like, Dad was trying to throw that race for money. He's like, I cut the line. I didn't know he was going to blow up. He's like, we were in a ton of debt. And Dom was like, a real brother would have come to me. Jacob is like, you know what? Let's take Han's girl with us. And it turns out they like need her DNA to activate the device or something. So a flashback family moment where his dad is telling him and Jacob to take care of the cars because they're like family. And he looks down at little B. He's like, oh shit, we left the kid at home. This is when it's revealed that Jacob is trying to activate something called Ares, which I'm not exactly sure what it would do. But they talk about how they need to hijack the tower that's in orbit. Cut to Rome and Tej in fucking spacesuits in a car, and I'm like, here we go, dude. Tej and Rome guys put on the fucking funniest scuba suits I've ever seen, where they literally put on like an old scuba suit. Luda tells them like they were out of astronaut suits or whatever, so he's like, these should still work. He's like, oh shit, there's some air in here, and he's like duct taping his wrist up, and he's like, are you using duct tape for your fucking wrist right now? And he's like, yeah, dude. He's like, it's all good. There's a funny like thing that Rome keeps bringing up too, where he talks about how like they never get injuries or scars or like any serious injuries, and he's like, we've been on all these crazy adventures, and he's like, we're never getting hurt. And he's like, don't you think that like we're kind of like invincible? And they're like, oh yeah, you're right. Tej says, let's see how invincible your black ass is after this. Guys, I gotta be honest, this is laugh out loud funny. It is fucking hilarious to see a car in space. And yes, I know in real life Elon Musk put a car in space. But just to see this fucking car and them like kind of using a steering wheel in space, like with this fucking car, this Pontiac Fiero with a rocket taped to it, it's so funny, dude. Like genuinely entertaining and awesome. And Luda says, 2 dudes in space from the ghetto. Ain't nobody gonna believe this. Got the Cipher, who's out of the box. And I'm like, why are you in this movie? Why are you involved at all? You're not cool. You're trying too hard. Charlize Theron, I'm sure you're a wonderful actress, but I hate you in these movies, and I don't understand why they brought you back for the next movie. Let me tell you guys, Rome and Tej are still in space, and it's still fucking funny. But guys, Cypher's flying a fucking jet, but once again, it's a remote jet because she's too afraid to actually do it herself. So Jacob hands Dom the keys to his charger, and Dom tells him, someone once gave me a 10-second car for a second chance. And he's like, I owe you that much. And I was like, aw. And I was like, I miss you, Paul, dude. Dom brings little Brian to the track, and it's cute as shit. And Dom says, everything I need to know about life I learned on this track. Oh, did you think we were done with flashbacks to young Dom and young Jacob? You can hear the cops coming. It's like right after he beat this guy, obviously. Tough times are ahead for sure, because Jacob's like crying. But it's going to be okay, because we're family. And I was like, okay. That's better. And we cut to a barbecue, guys, and I'm like, yas, queen, the barbecues are back, dude. There's no less than 95 Coronas in that fucking bucket of ice, dude. Sean and Han reunite, dude, and I got goosebumps. They hug each other. Oh, it's amazing. Roman's like, yo, when is this food gonna be ready? He's like, I'm hungry. He's like, I've been eating space food for like weeks. Like, you've been eating like Snickers, dude. And he's like, yo, don't judge me, okay? So they all gather around the table, and then Dom says, wait, there's still one more empty chair. And Mia says, he's on his way. And then we get Brian's fucking skyline, dude, racing through the streets. And Brian pulls up to the fucking address where it shows them building the house that fucking Deckard Shaw blew up. And that is how the fucking movie ends. And I'm like, bro, if you're having Brian show up at the end of this fucking movie, that means he has to be in Fast 10. And I don't know if they're going to digitally recreate him, if it's going to look bad, or if they're going to CGI him, or if they're going to use his brother. I think that looks a lot like him, but if it looks a lot different, it's going to look weird and kind of ruin his legacy. I hope they don't mess with his Fast 7 tribute, but having Brian back in here would be really cool. But if it's done wrong, it's gonna feel really weird. So fucking awesome to see him pull up, and you're like, oh my god, dude, like, let's go. You get a post-credit scene, of course, with Deckard Shaw punching a punching bag with a person inside of it, and he zips it down. I don't know if it's Otto or I don't know who that was. It's kind of unclear, but he like zips it back up. He gets a knock on the door, and Han shows up, dude, and it's like justice for Han, baby, let's go. But that is how F9, the Fast Saga, ends. Hey guys, my 10-second car for this one. This is the first time I'm giving it to 2 characters. It's got to be Tej and Rome, dude. In a movie about the Torettos, it's weird to pick someone other than Toretto, but I thought Tej and Rome stuck out the most in this one. But they were the funniest parts of the movie. The space thing was the most interesting part to me, I think. Every time that they cut to them in space, it was fucking hilarious. Like, every single time I laughed. And then just like how they found some foreign astronauts that brought them back, and like how they went and like the duct tape in the suits and talk about faith. And I love how Rome is kind of bringing up the fact that they might be invincible this whole time, or like godlike, and they're like laughing at him, but he's like kind of got a point because he's never getting hurt and shit. So yeah, dude, they've just been busting balls for a few movies, but they're always like the comedic strength of these movies. And I just think that like no one really stood out that much in this movie, but Tej and Rome were the most consistent ones, and I thought they were the best parts. So Tej and Rome, they got my 10-second car for this week. Hey guys, and guess who never had me? That's right, guys, Cipher. Charlize Theron is back. She reprises her role. Why is she in this movie at all, honestly? So much worse that they gave us a fake out that made us think she's in the jet, and she's killed at the end when she's not. She's just remote again, and she's fucking escaping to go probably to Fast 10 and Fast 11, just ruin this franchise. It's really dumb. I didn't understand why she was in this movie at all. We had Jacob's team, and we had Otto, and that was it. And then Charlize Theron was just in the box, and then she's out of the box, but Otto never explains why, because he was tricked by her, because they had that one scene talking about Star Wars. It doesn't make any sense. She's just way too serious, and she's trying too hard to be clever and evil, and I don't know, man. It's just distracting. I hated her performance in Fate of the Furious, and I hated it here. At least we have to wait until 10 to see if she's in it, but like, I don't know, man. Her character's just annoying. I felt she was a side character. Charlize Theron, again, I'm sure you're a great actress. You're gorgeous, but you never had me in this one. Okay guys, that brings us to the score. You know, for a movie, guys, where they use a giant magnet to wreck cars and send a car into space, this movie is actually lacking fun. Some of the highlights, guys, they bring Han back, of course, that's the best part of the fucking movie. Mia was a genuine surprise, and Lucas Black coming back as Sean Boswell. That was all awesome. I was like actually ecstatic for those moments. Brian showing up at the end? Like, dude, that's amazing. I know you have to bring him back, but like I said, you don't want to have this uncanny valley thing where it's like, if you use his brother and it's not quite like him. Brian O'Connor was so uniquely Paul Walker that like, it has to be that exact character. And so whether his dialogue has to be on point, his look has to be on point, he has to have that same flirty vibe with Mia and that same chemistry with Dom, most importantly. So if they don't nail that, it's going to feel weird bringing him back. But with 2 movies to go, guys, in a weird way, it feels like he has to come back, even though they had that tribute. So that'll be interesting. The flashbacks to young Dom and Jacob were great. I thought those were really genuinely entertaining and really awesome. It made Jacob feel a little more into it. One of the issues I had, though, along those lines, guys, Jacob wasn't super interesting and didn't feel entirely believable. Again, I don't love John Cena as an actor, so maybe that's just a me thing. But because they were just suddenly like, you have a brother and you never told us through all they've been on so many adventures, so many missions, so many barbecues, and he's never brought his brother there. So like, that's like, all right, dude, it's like they just threw the brother in and then Rome was like, wait. But I guess they explain it because Dom banished him, but it's just kind of a stretch anyway. Cipher sucks. There weren't many fire transitions, crazy good songs. No title card, as I mentioned, which was disappointing. I know it was delayed because of COVID, so I want to cut it some slack, but this movie was lacking a lot of flair. Otto felt like a throwaway villain. Crew chemistry was missing, with The Rock missing, Brian obviously. Shaw's mom showing up was cool. Dom going to the party, Brian at the end, the space shit. So the problem is this movie retries like a lot of things that we've seen. The car slingshot was cool, but that's not impressive as cars don't fly down. Score, it goes to 7.7 for me. There were some few genuinely fun, surprising, awesome moments. But as I mentioned here, guys, the cons outweighed the pros, where it's just like there's just a lot of like filler. It just wasn't a great time from start to finish, so 7.7 is what I give it. Guys, that brings us to the final rankings for now, until Fast 10 comes out. So still at the top, guys. Number 1 is Fast 5 with a 9.8. Number 2 is Hobbs and Shaw with a 9.5. I love that movie. I know a lot of people didn't like that movie. I personally loved it. I thought it was very crisp and fun and energetic. What I was looking for in this movie, that movie had a lot of, but this was the first time back with the main crew since Fast 8. And so it's been a few years of real time since Fast 9 came out. And there was like a big reveal, and we knew Han was coming back from the trailer. And they just kind of dropped the ball, but keep going here, guys. Number 3, Tokyo Drift at an 8.6, Han's original movie. Too Fast, Too Furious at number 4 with an 8.2. Fast and Furious 6 with an 8.1. Fast and Furious, still a worse title, at a 7.9. The original The Fast and the Furious at a 7.8 at number 7. And in this one, guys, slots in at number 8, F9, The Fast Saga with a 7.7. It's only ahead of, for me, Furious 7 at a 7.5, and then the number 10, The Fate of the Furious at a 6.7. So yeah, guys, if you can see, the last 3 scores in this one, 7, 8, and 9, have been my 3 lowest scores in the series. So I think it peaked with Fast 5, and I think it's really gone off since then, or kind of fallen off, but those are how the rankings shape up through 10 movies. Okay, guys, that brings us to the end of Fast Family for now. Like I said, guys, I just want to take a minute to thank each and every one of you guys for checking out the series. Now, I know the series isn't going to win any Oscars or win any awards or anything like that. But I gotta say, guys, despite its flaws, despite me nitpicking, despite these movies not being, Academy Award winners, this is a special franchise to me. And this is one that I kind of saw initially, didn't really care for. Eventually, I got the Fast and Furious collection. I went back and watched them all a couple years ago before I decided to do the channel, and just kind of fell in love with it, and just fell in love with the family dynamic. And once you realize that it's crazy over the top action, it's not going to make sense, and there's going to be plot holes, and it's going to be ridiculous, just grow to love it. And it's like, there's a good chance when you turn a Fast and Furious movie on, there's something you're going to see that you've never seen in a movie before. And in this one, it was a car in space. And so that's just ridiculous and crazy, and it's cheesy, but you gotta love it, dude. And it's like, respect to them for, doing what they want. It's too bad because I think, as I mentioned, the series hit Fast 5 and then has really fallen off since then. But I think a lot of that is due to Paul Walker's tragic passing, where I think it really shifted, I'm sure, the whole direction of the franchise. And I'm sure they had ideas for Paul and Dom, and they were going to ride through it to the end. And again, I'm curious to see if they bring him back digitally or if they use his brother. It feels like he needs to be there at the end. But I hope they do it right, because if they do it wrong, it's going to feel really weird, and like you want to respect the Walker family as well. So yeah, guys, this is it for us for a couple of years. Like I said, we'll be back for Fast 10 when that comes out, but I think earliest reports are like 2023. So we got at least probably 2 years before the next one comes out. So this series will be put on ice for a little bit. But once again, guys, take your Coronas there. I know I'll have mine for Fast 10. Thank you so much for checking out Project Potter. Thank you for checking out Fast Family, guys. And yeah, until next time, guys, salute me, familia.